In 2021, Thrasher hit an all-time high in revenue and eyeballs. With skateboarding bigger than ever before and Thrasher bigger than ever before, what happened to all the other skateboard magazines? What caused the extinction of the skateboard magazine? Guys, I'm Levi, this is Shred Shop connecting you to skateboarding, and today we're going to tell the story of the life and death of the skateboard magazine. Let's get into it. The skateboard magazine used to be revered. It's where the best tricks from every pro skateboarder would be unveiled each month. It's also where you went to find out about the newest products, sponsorship changes, and the up-and-coming skaters. Let's wind it back to the beginning and talk about the start. Skateboard magazines were the first real form of skateboard media. They were the first place that for someone from a place like Canada or even Japan, where they could go and find out what's going on in the schoolyards of Southern California. These magazines being produced and sold solidified skateboarding as a market. It showed that there was numbers interested in skateboarding and that those numbers could sell advertisements. It's what differentiated skateboarding from the yo-yo, the slinky, or even rollerblades. The first of these magazines was the Quarterly Skateboarder. It was launched in 1964 by Surfer Magazine. 2 years later, they shortened the name to Skateboarder Magazine, and only a couple issues after that, the magazine died. At that time, it kind of seemed like skateboarding might have been just a fad. But at the same time, in the background, polyurethane wheels come out, which is the wheels we ride today, and skateboarding tricks explode. It changes the sport entirely. In 1975, Skateboarder Magazine comes back from the dead.
Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
That polyurethane wheel breathed a lot of life into skateboarding. And because the sport blew up, the tricks blew up, the culture blew up, everything grew so much, there was a lot more to publish in a magazine each month. In July 1978, Skateboarder Magazine released 300,000 copies of this issue, making it the biggest, most vastly produced skateboard magazine ever in history. Obviously, they were making money hand over fist, or were they? This is the cost breakdown of what a skateboard magazine takes to make, given to us by one of our friends who ran a skateboard magazine. Right up front, $50,000 in printing costs. This could change depending on the quality of paper and printing. Around $15,000 for shipping. That's sending the magazines out to stores, shops, all that kind of stuff. Another $15,000 to contributors. That's writers, editors, graphic designers, photographers, and then around $17,000 to employees. That's internal contributors, accountants, HR people, administrators, and then approximately $3,000 for rent. That equals a rough total of $100,000. Again, this is from a medium-sized Canadian skateboard magazine that did pretty well, but the costs grow exponentially as the magazine's size and distribution grows. So at 300,000 copies, I still don't know that Skateboarder Magazine was making money hand over fist. And to answer the question before you ask it, the way that magazines make money is by selling advertising and copies sold. But we know that not that much money is brought in by copies sold. Advertising is a big revenue stream. Most magazines sell for less than the actual cost it takes to print and distribute the magazine, but that gap is filled in by advertising revenue. In July of 1980, Skateboarder Magazine changes their name to Action Now. Skateboarding is taking a huge dip in popularity, so they broaden their scope to a bunch of extreme sports, like surfing, BMXing, even lawnmower jumping. Even though skateboarding popularity is taking a dip, in January 1981, Fausto Botelho and Rich Novak released the first ever issue of Thrasher Magazine. They launched the first issue because everyone hated what Action Now was doing because it didn't represent skateboarding very well. And they wanted an avenue to promote the brands that they owned in NHS and the independent skateboard product. It obviously was successful because it took a lot of eyeballs away from Action Now and into Thrasher. And in 1982, Action Now folded. Also in 1982, Larry Bama and Peggy Kozenz of Tracker Trucks launched Transworld Skateboard Magazine. It was a direct antithesis of Thrasher Magazine. For example, Thrasher's tagline and ethos was skate and destroy, and Transworld's was skate and create. Contrary to popular belief, Fausto Botelho and Larry Bama were actually great friends.
Did we just become best friends? Yup!
And they had great respect for each other in their success in business. So as you can see by now, both of these magazines were used as an avenue to promote their very own skateboard products. This is just proof that print magazines live and die by the advertisers. It also helps when the owner of the magazine is the advertiser. So you see this with Thrasher Magazine selling like NHS and indie brands, and Transworld selling more Tracker and SoCal brands. We see the same thing in Canada, where different distributions fund certain magazines to promote their brand. So in the heyday of Canadian skateboard magazines, we see, for instance, Color Magazine was closely affiliated with Super Distribution. Concrete Powder was under the Ultimate Distribution umbrella. SBC Magazine was affiliated with Center Distribution, and King Mag was in bed with S&J. S&J later closed, and now King Mag is affiliated with Grand Trading. And everything was smooth sailing for the skateboard magazine until... In the early 1990s, street skateboarding is exploding. As well, the skateboard video is exploding. The skateboard video is the first real skateboard media that gives magazines a run for their money. But it actually seemed more like most skateboard videos complemented skateboard magazines. The skateboard videos would sometimes take 5-6 years to make, and so you wouldn't see any of those tricks photos in the magazine during that time. But then, when the video dropped, the photos dropped. But you would actually see the tricks first in the magazine and then in the video, coming out around the same time, but it showed that the magazine still reigned supreme. Also in the 90s, there was the short-term merger of both magazine and video with 411VM. This went from 1993 to 2005, and it blended the two popular forms of skateboard media. In my opinion, the heyday. It's interesting to note that some photos of tricks that made it into the mags never got landed, or at least we never saw the footage. And at that time, sequence photos were really popular. And so photographers were having to piece together different tries, different parts of the sequence in order to tell the story of the trick best in the photos. A funny one to point out is in the November 1997 cover of Transworld magazine, Guy Mariano was doing a trick and Costin in the background appears, disappears, and then appears again. If you guys like our videos and the content that we put out, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. It's the best way for us to give you the content that you love. And if you're jumping platforms, follow us on all platforms at Shred Shop, or me personally at Levi Switzer. In the early 2000s, it was the heyday of the skateboard magazine. You could walk into pretty much any grocery store and have your pick of which magazine you wanted to buy. Locally, we could buy Thrasher, Skateboarder, Big Brother, Transworld, and Slap, even Color, all at the same rack. The money was there, the industry were big, and magazines were selling. In 2002, Thrasher was printing 115,000 copies per month. They were also charging over $12,000 for a 2-page ad spread and $6,500 for a single-page ad. A crazy one is if a brand wanted to put their DVD in the Thrasher mag, it was $45,000 for them to slip it in there. I remember being a kid, oh heck yeah, the new FKD Bearings video came out in my Thrasher mag. And everything was smooth sailing for the skateboard magazine until 2007, Steve Jobs releases the first iPhone.
Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone, and we are calling it iPhone.
A touchscreen mobile phone with an iPod, a camera, and web browsing capabilities. We didn't know it then, but it was about to ruin our lives. In the same year, Steve Berra and Eric Costin launched a website of their own private skateboard park. This is the first shift to consuming skateboarding and viewing it online. The iPhone and the skateboard website were a monumental shift in skateboard media. Another monumental shift happened in skateboarding in 2007. Shred Skate Shop Cochrane started, and everything was good for the skateboard magazine until... In October 2010, Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger launched a small photo sharing app called Instagram. Even though the launch of this photo app grew and skateboarders were jumping on there, the old guard of sharing photos and videos in skateboarding reigned supreme. So you still put it out in the magazine and video parts. It didn't make its way onto Instagram. And still, skateboard magazines were smooth sailing until... In the early 2010s, a lot of brands and distributors started hiring social media managers to navigate this big change in this new world online. A lot of these managers would take an analytical view of eyeballs or views. They would compare apples to apples, and they would say one view on Instagram is the same as one view in a skateboard magazine. The average skateboard magazine, though, gets viewed many times, and it often passes through about 6 different sets of hands. And so 100,000 copies of Thrasher is not the same as 100,000 views of a post on Instagram. Now that they had this data, a lot of brands were thinking, I can get 100,000 views for a post on Facebook or Instagram, so why would I pay all this money to have a spread in Transworld magazine? Slowly, over the decade that follows, we see advertisers trickling their money from the print magazine over to online. We saw earlier how a magazine budget is fine-tuned, and so it doesn't take that many advertisers to pull out for the whole system to start to crumble. For instance, Statista.com said that in 2012, magazine ad spending in the US was over $20 billion. billion. And they said by the year 2024, ad spending in the US for magazines will be under $7 billion. It's still a big industry at $7 billion, but it's very much a fraction of what it was. Also in the 2010s, Thrasher starts posting video parts online. This is the beginning of the end for physical copy skateboard videos, as well for the skateboard magazine. Moving forward from this, advertising in magazines was down, as well as the reach that the magazines had was also down. Unfortunately, this is where we saw the end for a lot of amazing skateboard magazines. It wasn't so smooth sailing for the skateboard magazine. So to wrap it all up and bring it into port, in March 2022, Thrasher magazine printed their 500th issue and their thickest magazine ever. They get over 6 million views a month on YouTube and have over 7 million Instagram followers. According to a web estimator, their website gets between 400,000 and 1 million views per month. You also can't walk through a mall, skate park, or any trendy neighborhood without seeing Thrasher clothing. So then why is it that Thrasher seems to be thriving and crushing it while most other skateboard magazines have either died or are struggling? Why is Thrasher crushing it so hard? We think they played all their cards right at the right times. They made the shift from the old physical video parts in your hands to moving them online. I mean, you could go on any skateboard online presence whatsoever, and they are one of, if not the biggest skateboard media outlet out there. They are crushing it with social media, they crush it with their clothing brand, they crush it with gathering people around the culture of skateboarding. They're doing a good job. Looking at other magazines, why didn't they make it? We think they probably either didn't have the budget or they might not have been forward thinking enough in order to keep up with this crazy thing that the internet is. Lastly, we don't think print is dead. It's just more curated and specialized now. There's little zines and skateboard magazines that are popping up all over the place that are putting out really good content in print. We want to mention some of the mags and zines that we love. We have Canadian ones like Quip Mag and King Mag, and then there's lots of other great skate mags coming out of the States like Skate John, Low Carb, Golden Hour, Sneeze, and many more. And also Jenkem does a book every couple of years and it's so good. Just like we always say, support your local skateboard shop. If there is someone that you love doing skateboard prints or skateboard magazines, go out there and support them to keep it alive and thriving. Before you get your panties in a bunch, we love the Barracks, we love Thrasher magazine, we love all of the online media contents. We're not mad that everything's changed. We are sad to miss the print magazine a little bit, but here we are. As always, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you subscribe. It gets these videos in front of more people and it builds our skateboard community. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name's Levi, this is Shred Shop, and you just watched the life and the death of the skateboard magazine. Stay tuned for Comment of the Week. Oh, we got a spicy one. It's from my dog, Smatavot. He said, I had an Alien Workshop board that had Tony Hawk's autograph, Bam Margera's signature, Bob Burnquist's signature, Danny Way's signature, and Rob Dyrdek's signature. Got it from a kid that was moving away. Said he didn't want it anymore since he just got 5 brand new decks. I keep it nice for a few years, then shredded the F out of that board till it snapped in half. Lol. Listen, man, it's too many autographs. I didn't even need to make a joke. That thing was funny also.